if you check your bank account, but seeing the ending balance total makes you just want to lay it down on the floor afterwards, same. Hi everyone, and today I want to talk to you all about how to enjoy the things you love without financial panic. Because you shouldn't have to choose happiness now and stability later. And also, hello, if you are new here, I'm Naya, and about a year ago I actually started this finance podcast from a neurodivergent, specifically I'm autistic perspective, and I'm really excited to finally bring it back. So for those of you who are my new viewers, this is actually what I've been doing since the beginning. After talking to some of my old moots, I finally decided to bring it back again. So let's get on right into it. So first off, I strongly believe everyone should have access to financial education, financial literacy, especially people like us who tend to be multiply marginalized. You may be neurodivergent, you may be disabled, you may be a person of color, you may come from a low income background, and if you're all above, here, high five, me too. People like us deserve a cozy, stable life without giving up the stuff that we love. And basically, an explanation, my qualifications are basically I am an autistic person who hyperfixates on learning how to fund my nerdy hobbies responsibly, and I hope sharing what I've learned can help you too. So, being a fangirl in 2026 is super duper expensive. That's not even it ain't even funny at this point. Oh my goodness. There's constant merch drops and limited editions and shop updates from your favorite fan artists. There's just so many things to keep up with nowadays. And that's not even getting into trying to get official merch from Japan. If you're an anime fan, oh my gosh, the shipping and the tariffs somehow added up all together are way more than the base price. Oof, it ain't looking so hot this year. Or conversely, even for domestic shipping, you may add one cute sticker with one poster into your cart, and it may end up being well over $40 somehow. It is rough out here for both artists, collectors, and just being a fan in generalist economy. It's rough. Okay, I see both sides. As someone who is an aspiring sticker art business owner, it is rough out here. I see both sides. Everyone's just trying to survive and make a living out here. But anyways, aside from all that, loving things and having a passion for your hobbies is not the problem here. After all, having special interests and hyperfixations is what makes life so fun and colorful, unique. You get to meet people with similar interests, and likewise, you build connections off of these fun hyperfixations that we all have. And the goal isn't to stop caring about these things, but rather it is to enjoy them in a way that won't harm you later. So first things first, before budgeting apps, before doing anything with investing advice, or even before any sort of addressing all of those issues that we all very well know, the most important part is actually figuring out your priorities. And that is sitting down and asking yourself, what are you trying to build? For example, here are some trade-offs that you may very well recognize yourself. You may be thinking, would you rather save for one big convention experience, go to multiple smaller convention experiences throughout a year? Or you may also be thinking a scenario where, do you want to save long-term for a future Japan trip where you can buy official merch in person and not have to deal with all those exorbitant costs of shipping and everything? Or rather, do you have more IRL sort of goals like moving out, renting a nicer place, or even building stability for yourself? Or are you just like me, where as a low battery autistic person, I simply just would love to retire as early as possible because working forever sounds very deeply unappealing and exhausting. And for me, as someone with low spoons in general, just existing, I very much need that as a goal. But anyways, none of these answers or scenarios are better than the other, as we're all at different stages of life, different situations, income, etc. So what matters most is being able to choose intentionally regardless of the situation, and basically just not reacting to whatever drops online this week. But of course, we have to address the very real guilt, okay, we may all have. Personally, as someone who's been a fangirl for more than half her life since I was in middle school, I am 24 now. I started getting into anime since I was 12. So I know very well that you too may struggle with this. Now let me tell you and help distill this sort of guilt by saying, and I say this as a sociology major, okay, Miles, my bachelor's degree, that this all really isn't our fault. It really is a systemic failure. And generation-wise, for me as a Gen Z, and most likely you are too, or up in the millennial cohort, given my statistics from my audience, our generations right now are constantly being bombarded with amazing things to spend money on, thanks to the internet and also curses, and also the downfalls of the internet, I suppose. in which the internet today and social media is basically wired to be a 24/7 accessible shopping mall. So that whenever you open up your TikTok or Instagram, bam, there's always some sort of new merch, new art, something there to fulfill the supposed void that's supposed to make you feel like you're missing out on if you don't buy that product now. So basically, if you never figure out and sit down and decide your priorities before being bombarded with these constant signals every day, I can't type what. Inevitably, the internet and all these marketing ads will essentially decide for your brain for you if you've never ever had that mental sit down talk with yourself, all thanks to your constant working algorithms on your social media. And granted, it's a good thing as well, because then you could find things that you, well, hopefully, are interested in. But it's when there's so much of these that eventually brings in stuff that you technically weren't really looking for, but you think you need. And the way I kind of shifted and the way I worked through this myself was being able to sit down and pause and ask one question. And that question is, do I want this object or what I think the experience that having this object or subscription or experience will be associated with what I think it may give? And it can be tricky because most of the time it's not as easy as identifying something as a want versus need, but it really is just a want versus want if you break it down. And oftentimes that falls into the category of future me versus present me. And so first, here are a few practical tools. So here are a few practical tools or methods that you most likely have heard before. Help sort of create that pause between the dopamine hit and excitement before you go and add that item to your cart. That is making a wish list before you put that checkout button out. That is making a wish list before you even think of putting the item in your checkout. Waiting 24 to 40 hours before you purchase something, although personally with my impulse control and why I think I should probably get diagnosed with ADHD too, is I wait a good week, honestly. Making sure to allocate a fun budget for yourself, and making sure that anything over that budget you are not spending over that allocated amount that you set aside for yourself, that you could spend guilt-free. And kind of being able to remind yourself in general that these aren't necessarily punishments, but they're what allows you of them as buffers to buffers are little speed bumps basically that can give your thinking brain time to catch up with your dopamine hit brain, your excited brain that just wants that dopamine hit basically. And personally, this is the method that I'm finding that works more efficiently for me. So you can go ahead and look at the slide I created of a recent financial ranking that I did. And I encourage you guys to write down your values like this as well, whether it be through bullet journaling or even just writing it down as a list, anything that helps you visualize best for your brain. At first, what I did was figuring out what the most valuable thing that I like to prioritize. And for me, that is my energy. As a person with autism, I very much suffer from like chronic depletion of low spoons. I don't know, man. Every time I wake up and I have to touch grass, for me, that's like more than 60% of my energy having to go outside, bro. So for me, I have constant low spoons. So if something is social heavy or transportation is taxing, having to use public transportation as a non-driving autistic, I'm out myself here. And realistically, having to gauge whether or not I would have the social energy spoons for the duration of the event or experience, despite it being something that I want to do. So being able to kind of level with myself, like, would I be able to realistically pull off this event or experience? That's what really helped me kind of prioritize what I could do. So given this sort of ranking system, first I put the Oh My Gosh Mart. For those of you who aren't aware, Oh My Gosh Mart is a free, small, basically convention event that meets out in the Inland Empire area if you are familiar with Southern California geography. And for me, it's personally a very far away drive to get there. And here I put some bullet points, of course, of why I want to go there, as well as the pros and some of the biggest concerns that I have. So I put, the event is free. There will be a lot of TWST ENVAs for those of you who aren't familiar. That's like 90% of my channel. A lot of TWST English VAs are going to be there. And for me, that really is the main upside of this event, okay? I think there's gonna be like 6 to 8 of them there. I think as of right now, filming this, I have to check again. However, the downsides are quite large. However, the amount of downsides are quite large. It is a very super far drive from where I live, and transportation-wise, gasoline prices right now in California, they ain't looking so hot. So RIP, guys, if you're a fellow Californian. I feel for you. So anyways, despite the fact that the event is free, it is overall a 5 to 6 out of 10 for me. And then moving on to number 2, I put Anime Expo. For those of you who have watched my channel since last year, I went to Anime Expo last summer, and currently when evaluating if I want to go back to this year, I feel like I really have changed my priorities. Now, at first, I was going along the sort of automatic thing, like, oh yeah, I'll go again this year. But then once I wrote down all of these events that I've been considering, I decided that I'm actually putting this lower this year in priority. So I put it down at a 3 to 7-ish out of 10, but it's very, I guess, volatile in the sense that, one, it's super expensive. For those of you who don't know, it is $177 for a weekend badge to attend the entire convention, and that is just to get in, okay? That is just to attend all 4 days. That is not including parking or the overpriced convention food. Heck, even like Artist Alley spending money and all their merch you want to get, like, it's crazy. Like, it's gonna be super duper expensive anyway. And honestly, the only reason I'd really want to go is if there are any twist related events there. If there are any panels or cosplay gatherings, or heck, if there's a premiere, a special screening related twist, heck, I will be there. But that's only if there is anything there this year. So, anyways, I'm looking out for the news right now, but otherwise, worst comes to worst, if I'm that desperate, I could try for a $100 day pass, but honestly, I still think it isn't that worth it because that is so expensive. But anyway, so that's why I ranked Anime Expo a 3 to 7 out of 10, which varies a lot. So, wait, I gotta add in that, yeah, Anime Expo is also very overstimulating. I feel like that should be a given for y'all. For y'all that have no idea about Anime Expo, it is literally the biggest anime convention in North America. There are literally tens of thousands of people everywhere, and it seems like the cap limit is like only increasing somehow. So for me as an autistic, it's like, it ain't looking so hot. Anyways, moving on to my number one priority from what I found after comparing these 3 events is a future Japan trip. And for those of you who have followed me, that would probably not be as much of a surprise, because I went to Japan last fall and it was so amazing, and I honestly felt like, despite the fact that the plane ticket is like the main big expense, it's like maybe $600 to $1,000 depending like when you go and when you book the plane ticket. Despite that huge like upfront expense, I think given the access to official merch without tariffs, without any shipping and everything, the overall, like, as far as like my own currency conversion, which is US dollars to Japanese yen, it is so worth it just going there as a otaku. In addition, as an autistic person, it's so easy to navigate with Google Maps, and it's clean, safe, and efficient transportation for me to navigate. And their trains come every few minutes. Like, all I'm saying, LA Metro could never, anyways. And it's also very autistic, like social friendly. Like, they don't force you to do any small talk or nothing. You just wear a mask and you just kind of check out at the local 7-Eleven convenience store. Like, honestly, it's such a chill, like, introvert paradise. Then again, this comes from my own experience also, like, being Japanese, so who knows if you're, like, considered a different foreigner, because I hear very mixed reviews online with other people who've traveled there. But anyways, that's the experience I had. A future Japan trip at the highest of my mid to long term goals at a 7 to 9 out of 10. And of course, this is totally subjective. This is my own ranking I just made out of my noggin, but that is an example of how I broke down my own money priorities, especially as a broke fangirl. As I hope you guys are able to take that blueprint I kind of had for myself and take something away from it, whether it's just brain dumping all your random priority thoughts down, like maybe there's a certain figure or there is a fan art you want, etc. Be able to get all of that jumble out of your brain. So once you get advertised a random pop-up ad on your social media, you are able to then combat that with the thought that you may actually want instead to save that $100 in shipping for that one figure they imported, to just go to Japan and buy it for half the price, okay? And every time you don't impulse buy, you're not depriving yourself. In fact, you are funding future you. And that is future you who may want to travel, go to a convention, own a house, rent out for a nicer place, support your favorite fan artist without stress, not feel trapped in your job forever, have a soft life, have the life that you want. And ultimately, investing and saving isn't about making you rich, but rather being able to make sure that your hobbies do not disappear when you get older, when you are on the brink of being not able to work anymore. Like, you're able to be surrounded by all of your beautiful merch, even as a granny, yes, once you hit those IRL goals or whatever you are prioritizing at the moment, given your life circumstances. And for me personally, realizing that I had long-term goals mainly really changed everything regarding my perspective of what I want to allocate my money on. I don't really want random stuff, I realize. I want stability, freedom, and honestly, the ability to keep enjoying the things I want without panic or desperation to hoard everything I want. And anyways, that realization is what led me to learn about investing and long-term planning for my finances, which I definitely am planning to talk about in future videos, especially as a part 2, because I feel like this video is really about just kind of sitting down, making sure you write down your priorities on what do you think you really value versus all of the noise that goes on in today's capitalist society of fan marketing, of fan or nerdy marketing. But essentially, today's takeaway is simple. Essentially, before you manage your money, know what you are managing it for, okay? Before you sit down and click an ad sticker to your cart or a valuable merch, sit down with yourself and ask, what do I actually want my life to look like? And once you zoom out from the end goal, you're able to then work backwards essentially. And because you know that, spending decisions get a lot less confusing. And basically, you don't have to stop loving your hobbies and your figures, your favorite anime boys or girls. Just make sure that future you can afford them too. And your hobbies deserve a budget and not guilt without sacrificing your future self. By having a plan, you could love deeply without feeling like you have to sacrifice so much financially. But anyways, that is the end of this podcast episode, and I hope that it was fulfilling and fun to listen to amidst my rambling, oh my gosh. But yeah, if you have any questions, please comment down below. And yeah, in the future, I'm planning to make a basics to investing from what I learned. I've been literally hyperfixating nonstop on a bunch of like beginner finance podcasts and books. So yeah, feel free to look forward to that soon. And yeah, and I shall see you later on the next stream, assuming, because I stream so often rather than podcast episodes. And for those of you who were here from the beginning, from my original podcast series, thank you guys for being here. And I am so sorry it took so long. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking around, and I shall see you guys soon. Alright, bye!